Hello, everyone, and welcome to VR Verdict, episode 66, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And we'd like to share VR with you. This episode, we're joined by André, the CEO of AAA Code. They've been working and are currently working and will continue to be working on Holoswitch for VR, a nice system that lets you do all kinds of great things like check the time, see your phone screen in VR in real time, so you don't miss any messages, or if you want to miss messages, you can do that and just check on other things. He talks all about it, gives us the full rundown. Links are in the show notes for everything, including his Discord. Definitely check it out. If you spend any amount of time in VR, this program, this app sounds super helpful, and I can't wait to try it out. So Wookie, this is Andre. Andre, this is Wookie.
Hello.
Hi, Wookie.
Andre, you are the CEO of Holoswitch, is that correct?
The company is actually called AAA Code, and Holoswitch is our first product. Yes.
Okay. My bad. I should have noticed that.
No worries. For a long time, we said like we are just Holoswitch, but now we are basically expanding our product palette. So now it's going more into AAA for the official communication. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll have to get into that because since we first started talking until now, it seems like there's a lot more features that you're offering. So you want to just give us a really brief like elevator pitch of Holoswitch? We'll get into it a little deeper a little bit later, but just for the listeners so they know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so Holoswitch is basically a tool for VR that eliminates the fear of missing out. So one of the problems that we have in VR is that you're basically completely detached from the real world, and so you don't know what is going on around you. You might miss phone calls or might miss someone walking into the room, and Holoswitch is the solution to this problem, and we do this by using the smartphone. So Holoswitch comes in two parts. There's one mobile app, and then there's one desktop app for VR. And you connect the two together, and then whatever comes from your phone, like calls or notifications or whatever it is, you basically get them displayed in virtual reality, so you know what's going on. And we also have another feature that's called the peephole, which basically allows you to turn your smartphone camera into a surveillance camera. So you place your smartphone, and then you're always aware of what is happening around you. And might protect you from some delicate situations. That's
like
quite
punching
like
a loved one.
I mean, I can also give you a little bit of the history about Holoswitch, because it's actually a sister companies of ours. They are in adult entertainment, and actually the whole idea to enjoy VR adult entertainment like in a good way without getting disturbed. Basically give rise to the initial idea of Holoswitch.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's basically this, the fear of missing out things that are happening around you, and the smartphone as a tool to eliminate this fear. So we're beating technology with technology.
So how did this come about? Like, were you working on other things in VR, or were you just a fan of VR and you're like, hey, this is a need type of thing? Like, what happened there?
No, actually, I can give you like a short wrap up from my history. So I originally come from the games industry. I entered the games industry in 2011, and worked on AAA games, then later mobile games, and eventually we had one contract where we developed VR game. I think it's not so known, but V-Rock was it called, where you are basically a small frog sitting in a pond and jumping around, trying to catch insects. And this was basically my first contact with VR. Unfortunately, this game company, they didn't want to continue with VR, but I wanted to continue. So in Berlin, we had back then a startup that wanted to make something like Instagram for VR, where you would use your phone to create panorama spheres around you and share them within a community. Stayed there 2 years. Unfortunately, the startup didn't continue, but I still wanted to go on with virtual reality, so I created my own servicing company in VR. This was back in 2017, and I mean, you probably know this, guys, but the VR market is going up and down. So after 2 years, I eventually stopped going from having like a full company more into a freelancing mode. And I basically met those guys that had the adult VR entertainment, and we pretty much quickly decided that it would be a good idea to develop this product, Holoswitch, because it's one of the core problems that we have in VR. So that's that's my quick story.
Nice. No, that's fine. So when you just sticking with your history a little bit, you came from you said you were AAA games and stuff like that. Like any games we would recognize if you named them, or just
No,
curious?
unfortunately not, because this company they spent I think 3 or 4 years in working on it was a twin stick shooter. When I joined them, and quickly after I joined them, and like working a couple of months on this and seeing like the code base and the quality, we decided that it doesn't make sense to continue this. Also back then we didn't have a publisher. I mean, this about the AAA games market is something that you don't hear so much in the public, but there are actually a lot of titles that never see the light of day. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this company that I joined, they produced many titles that never saw the light of day.
So when you're in that situation, like what's your mindset? Like, how do you keep yourself going forward? You just that passionate about gaming, or?
Now, so my personal recipe for getting forward in this situation is like imagine even imagine the players in the future, like how much fun they will have. So it's of course you need to have a passion for game development, but in the end, to see like eyes of kids that light up, that enjoy to play your game, to see that it works. This this is definitely something that can keep you going. Honestly, today I would never spend again like 3 years working on the same thing, because you really need to have just a lot of resilience, I would say.
Yeah.
And this takes quite an amount of power to get up after 3-4 years and get yourself motivated to finish the game.
Right. Yeah,
Game development is like building rockets.
I'm
Very,
always
very,
impressed
very
because
tough.
I don't know if I would be able to do that. So I'm always impressed by developers who are. So
Yeah, me too. Just like when I look at the really big AAA titles that are, well, let's take Destiny for example, that way they spent 500 millions on this, and have like many people that are working on this. It's impressive. It's an impressive amount of organization skills, like having the right people that come together in order to build something like this. Besides this, one reason why I would never go back into at least AAA game development is that still the industry is not very family friendly. And back then, my second daughter was born, and it's tough because it's quite normal that you have 12-hour shifts in the games industry, and it's very hard to combine this with your private life and find a good work-life balance.
yeah, that's one thing I haven't heard in VR development.
No,
Is
not
like
necessarily,
the crunch time.
not in VR development. I'm talking about really AAA games,
Right.
like classic for consoles and
Yep.
PC titles.
I find it interesting that I have never heard the phrase crunch time for a VR game or development studio. I just find that very interesting. Like it's kind of a totally different world from flat screen AAA stuff.
Yes, it's definitely a different world because it's more specialized. You don't. It's very challenging to find good developers in there, but when you have them together, it's usually it's smaller. The team sizes are smaller. The companies are smaller. It has more this family atmosphere, and people are also more accepting to see that everyone needs to have a work-life balance and to bring this in. Yes, you have more flexibility. This AAA games market, because it's highly competitive, is you have the big money. The big money makes a lot of pressure, and in the end, you see this pressure with people doing crunch time.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not there because it does. Obviously you wish it wasn't a thing, but it is, and it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you think of gaming. So I'm glad VR isn't part of that yet.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's also, I'm very glad that in general mobile gaming got so much since then, because also the mobile game market for developers, it's also very different. As you have more women in mobile game development, and usually, at least for the developers at studios that I know here in Berlin, they have very strict policies on crunch time. So usually there is no crunch time, and still they manage to make money and sell their products. So there's definitely an alternative. It's just in the AAA games market where I see it this crazy. Yeah.
Nice. So when we're talking about Holoswitch, was this originally like your idea? And if so, like, were you playing a game and you're just like, hey, this would be neat? And if so, like, what game were you playing when the idea popped in your head?
As I said, it's not my original idea. There was like for our sister company, the idea before was very rough. Just the very beginning, that they said like, I would be somehow cool if we could have our phone in virtual reality. Then we started to look into this problem. What is actually the real problem here that people have, and it's this disconnectedness. And this is not just, it does not only apply for VR adult entertainment. Because we all get lost. We all miss, like when we spend a couple of hours in VR, we all miss phone calls and something that might be relevant to us. So basically, my job from the beginning on was to from the idea to define really what is the problem, and then develop the whole product. So the design, like the features that we have now, we have like 3 core features with notifications forwarding. Then the people, I spoke about that. And then we also said like, okay, it's like what we also would, if we have the phone, then it might make sense to use this as a bridge also for content that you create. So this goes both ways. Right now, it's very hard to take content like notes or whatever you have like with you into VR. And it's also very hard to create VR content, to just basically show other people what you're doing or what you're experiencing in VR.
Yeah.
This is why we reworked basically this whole snapshot function. Guys, there is in Steam VR, there is like a snapshot function, but we wanted to make this better and give you the like direct feedback, like how the snapshots look like, and then they are automatically stored on your phone. And the same is true with video recording. We've found all these solutions with OBS, but it's not so complicated for the most people that we have right now in VR, because they are usually very technical, versatile. But like we really imagine the future with Holoswitch, and the future is mass market. And for mass market, we are thinking more about like an Apple approach, where we say like, okay, if it's mass market, then the products that we have, they should be super easy to use. And this is also something that we put a very big emphasis on in Holoswitch from the beginning on, that it's super easy to use. And there are many steps in connecting your phone with the PC. When it comes to Apple, it's even more complicated. But most of the time we spent on basically working on the problems and figuring out solutions to make it very easy for you guys to have something that you can use, where you don't need to think about, where there's not a big need to make a huge setup, something that just works reliable.
Nice. Yeah, when we first got into VR, I have like a small camera system in the house, just basic, for nighttime issues or whatever. But it was one of the first thoughts I had when I spent like the whole day in VR the first time I got it. It was like you'd hear stuff, and it's like, what's going on in the real world? So I quickly made a thing where I could pull up, in the background and just check my camera systems around the house just in case like someone's at the door or something like that. But it was very cumbersome, so it was really neat to see this kind of be more integrated and actually like just kind of, and we'll get to it, like on display, like while you're playing, instead of having to like pause the game, go in the background, check it out,
Yes.
type of thing. So with
Yeah,
that,
and like a typical use case that you mentioned is exactly someone is ringing the door and you miss it because you just don't hear it.
yeah,
And we're also working on a solution for this, that you get aware that actually something is happening.
that's awesome. Because I mean, if it was like, say, my mom at the door, sure, I'll pause the game. But if it was like a neighbor or someone I didn't really want to talk to, I'd just keep playing and ignore it. But
So you also have a camera with your doorbell.
yes.
So the best thing would be if you could see like the doorbell camera stream directly in VR to see who's there. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's funny because I used to do this way like 15 years ago when my gaming room was like in a basement, and I had just a really, simple night vision camera type thing up in my main window looking at the door because I could never hear when someone was knocking. So it was just kind of like I had a picture-in-picture screen up and I could see the front door. I play games too much, so like my parents would come to visit and I wouldn't know it. And this was kind of before cell phones were like what they are today. So they'd always get mad at me and like, "Are you ignoring us?" No, I just didn't hear you. Stop by. So
It's all on purpose. It's all on purpose.
so it is really nice to have this functionality, and just Oculus has added the messenger, like Facebook Messenger, to their UI and stuff, which has been nice if you use that. But again, back when we first got into VR, and I'd be in there all day, every day. My wife would text or like, "Hey, come help with the groceries," and I wouldn't know that was happening, and then she'd unload the whole car, get mad at me, and so it saves a lot of fights.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke with Facebook, and unfortunately, Oculus they are going in this direction that the messenger, the things that they offer, it's basically limited to their universe.
Yeah,
And yeah, unfortunately, they are also not opening on the developer side like the means that we can have overlays. So right now, unfortunately, it's only possible on Steam VR. But I guess in the future we will see that there will be also a solution for the Quest, that we can also display overlays there. Right now, Facebook is having a closed garden, and
yeah.
is not allowing everyone to enter there.
And I imagine that's frustrating as hell for developers, but it's also frustrating as like a consumer, because what if I want to have overlays, like I want to be able to see my phone or whatever while I'm playing whatever game I want. Like they're just
Yeah.
deciding a lot of things because they want to, which isn't great. But
Yes, exactly. And this is, I mean, can understand this, that Facebook wants to have users in their garden, not going anywhere else, and then use all this data. But what we hear now from our users, like the most common request, is that we have support for the Quest.
yeah,
And I mean, we're not the only ones that are doing this. I think I remember last year, Your Fit, they came up with some very custom
Yep.
solution for putting their overlays into the Quest, and then I mean, Facebook changes something and then they're locked out immediately. So all this investment, all the time that they spent on this, on integrating and finding a solution for this, gets immediately killed.
Yeah, Your Fit was a great example because they had the overlay and it was allowed at one point, and then I remember there was an update, and then you had to like get to your fit by going to like Oculus TV, and they had to pretty much do it as a website type of thing, and they're just like, yeah, we spent all this money and time, and then they change one little thing. It's just like you said, and we had to adapt, and all that was wasted. It's like, that's not true.
I kind of
No, not at all. Especially if you're a small startup, then this can break your neck very quickly.
Yeah.
Not that I would say I saw that one coming from that, but automating things for a living, I've had to connect to websites and stuff before, or just integrate applications, and it's like, you always have to put a clause in here. If somebody on the other side that we can't control changes something, it could break everything. Like that always seems risky. Like, or they'll just add it as a feature in their own software. They're like, oh,
exactly.
We did all the R&D for you, but here, have our product. That's always a risk.
Yeah, it's a risk, and I think especially now in this times, it's a risk that we don't really need to take, because actually we have the next VR standard with OpenXR, and also for us developers, it would be very easy if everyone integrates the standard to have overlays across all platforms. So I'm talking from mobile platforms. I think even for the PlayStation VR, this would be possible. So as an industry, we have one standard, but unfortunately, the big players, they're lagging behind in implementing this.
Yeah.
So and of course, like small startups, they cannot make the investment and make like your fit special versions for or special solutions for every platform. For us, it's also makes much more sense to have one standard, build something against this one standard, and then be able to offer it for everyone on every platform. And I think that's also something we will see in the future, that Oculus will provide that they will implement. I think that there's something already with Mix, early versions. Steam, Valve made big advantages in the last year. But honestly, the best ones right now with OpenXR support is Microsoft with their Windows Mixed Reality. Unfortunately, not so many people are using those.
Yeah, and I was just gonna get to the next thing, like competition. Like Oculus, obviously, doing a lot of stuff for VR, but they're doing it their way, calling the shots, because they're almost a monopoly right now. But if we could just get one more competitor in that mobile market to go against the Quest, and you guys would all partner with them and like make a standard and force them to follow it, type of thing, is what I would like to see. But fortunately, that hasn't happened yet.
No, unfortunately not. But usually in our or in the IT in general, it goes like this: that you have a monopoly, and then we have standards, and eventually this monopoly disappears. So I just remember like Windows 95. Let's go very, very much back when Microsoft had a monopoly with Windows and the Internet Explorer, and eventually it broke. And now we have lots of open source software, lots of open source tools, people collaborating together. I think this is something that in the long run, Facebook will not win. I'm pretty sure about this.
Yeah. I would agree. But
or just let's take Nokia. When Android came, they were also blown away by an alternative operating system. So this monopoly, it might be good for them right now. I think in the long run, it will hurt them very badly if the VR industry as a whole doesn't define the standards and keep the standards.
Getting back to Holoswitch, we talk a lot and we tend to like just go on. So I'll bring it back to your platform that we're here to talk about. Holoswitch, if you just want to go over the core functions and kind of like what came first and what you're working on, type of thing.
The thing that came first. So first we started with some experiments, and what is the most beneficial for the users that we found out through several surveys is that they just have notifications in VR. So just to be able to see like, hey, my phone is doing something, there's something coming in, and I can be aware of this in VR. This made a lot of sense for the most users, and also obviously this is what we started with. We did a lot of research on how it's possible to have basically the full phone in VR and remotely control this.
Nice.
This is something we are still working on. cannot give you an ETA on this, but this is still in the works. There are ways. The second thing that we did was this was 1 year ago. We did the snapshots exactly. So to basically take snapshots in VR, save them directly on your phone. Then we started working on the peephole. So peephole is functionality where you can use your mobile phone camera as a surveillance camera to see what's going on around you. And the last feature that we integrated at the beginning of this year was the video recording. And I haven't talked about this yet, but we found that during the development of Holoswitch, let's put it like this: in Steam we have a dashboard, but the dashboard is accessed through a very little tiny button on your controller, and most people actually don't know that this dashboard exists. And most of our functionality was in the dashboard, so there's a notification center where you can see all the notifications that you received and manage them. We have a gallery there where you can see the content that you created. And actually, most people don't know how to get to this dashboard, especially if they're VR beginners, because it's located on this tiny button, and this varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. So we decided to come up with something new, like from an interaction scheme, from a UX perspective, which is the Holocom. So the Holocom is basically it's like a virtual watch in VR that you can interact with your controllers and through gaze, and it allows you. I mean, this is something very simple, but people were actually glad when they could see their time and date in VR.
Yes,
it's not obvious, but it's like one of the obvious use cases. Like when you have it, then it's clear. Like, yes, I'm in VR. Sometimes I forget the time, so it's pretty good to just be able to see the time.
Yeah, that is good.
And on this Holocom, we display like the last notification that you received, and then also you can switch. Basically, it's really like a smartwatch where you have apps on there, and the apps that we have now is the people that you can see what your surveillance camera is seeing directly on your wrist. And the other is the video recording functionality that you don't need to go to some crazy menu. So now you just open the Holocom, go to the video recording, start recording the video. We also have something where you can turn on and off your microphone. So for streamers or someone that wants to explain something, they can annotate then basically their creation.
That's
roughly the order of how the Switch was developed. And still, I think 2 months ago we did a survey amongst our users. They are still saying like, hey, the notification feature, like just being able to see notifications from my smartphone, is still the most important thing for me, because this eliminates most of my fear of missing out.
Yeah, like that, adding in like the microphone functionality, all that's incredibly useful. And for those listening, and maybe if there's someone listening that isn't played in VR, right now when you're talking about everything's on your wrist, if you're, again, for someone who may be listening that hasn't played VR, you literally just turn your wrist and this pop-up comes up and has little menus, and it's just, and so when you're playing you don't see it, but you can kind of stop what you're doing, and just a normal action like looking at your watch in real life, that whole screen pops up. I think that's amazing. Like, I was just watching videos the other day of your stuff, like sample videos of the things you're working on, and I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So my question with that, like, do you have to do that like game specific, or like if there's a game that say doesn't really have in-game hands, like do you have to do anything different with those?
Yes, we had many users that came to us and said like, okay, this Holocom thing, this is good and nice, but I actually don't have controllers. And first when we heard this, we were a bit stumbled here, like what is going on? Like why you only have a headset, HMD, but no controllers. And since we are not simulation fans and we are not racing fans, we just don't have those kind of VR games. It never occurred to us that there are many players out there that buy the VR glasses and then play Microsoft Flight Simulator or play some racing game where they have their hands on some other controller. So then, of course, in this situation, the Holocom is useless for them. So our solution to this, of course, you can still use the controller if you need to and go into the dashboard if you need more time. But for notifications, it's really easy. We have like a pop-up. So when you're racing or flying or whatever you do in your simulation without controllers, then you still have this pop-up in front of you and you see like that something happened. So you're still aware if someone is calling you or writing you messages without controllers.
As my next question, like, do you have options for like a HUD? Like, can you just like out of the box, let's say, like, how do the notifications work? Do they pop up, or is there like a window that's always on? Like, how do you handle that?
Yes, there are two ways you receive the notification. So first is this pop-up that obviously you don't need controllers for this. This pops up directly in your face and then disappears. And the other is, as I said, it's on the holocom. So on your wrist, you see then the last notification. And for everything else, for example, if we have video recording that is going on, then we also have like a little icon that shows you like how much time or how long the video recording is, and that you're actually recording, that you're not accidentally recording the things. So yes, these are like the things where we use on-screen display parts.
If you turn your wrist to look at your watch, what happens when the game itself has options for that? Like a lot of games, you turn your wrist one way and they have in-game stuff. Does your HUD overwrite? Like, does the pop-up come on top of that?
It comes on top of this because it's rendered on top of everything. We have the option that you can change the wrist, so you the hand. So it doesn't need to be on the left hand; it can also be on the right hand. So this decreases the chance that you have a conflict with the actual game. In the future, we're working on something that you can also move this display along your wrist, that you can maybe turn it, put it at the lower bottom of your wrist. And giving just people a bit more options how they where they want to place it, that we avoid having this conflict between game UI and our overlay.
That's awesome and smart because you don't want to conflict with the game, but you also want to support left and right-handed people because that's one thing that does get overlooked a lot, and it's the simple thing of looking at your watch if it's on the wrong arm is frustrating.
We've been playing.
I can tell you, we spent a great deal. I think like 2 to 3 months in perfecting this system, like how it works now. Did many tests with all kinds of games because this thing really should only show up when you look at it, and not should show up when you don't want it. So I think we played Half-Life Alyx here for hours, like battle testing this thing that is not in the way, because there we have the situation you have an in-game UI on your hand where it's potentially conflicting. And still, I have to say that now it works pretty well. It's really only when you want the holocom to appear. So when you're really looking at your wrist, then it will come, and it's not conflicting now with games that we have accidental pop-ups. Pretty good. And it's also what our users are saying. They're quite happy now with the solution, and no complaints so far. But these are like the big challenges still in VR, like figuring out the UX, how you can do things like this, and of course when it comes now to overlay applications, we are still pioneers there.
Yeah, we've just been playing a lot of the new Demio game, and a lot of that is controlled by, kind of flicking your wrist, like looking at a watch, and it does work with both hands. So my brain would just go to like, I would need to have like control to move that, because if you can't pick your stuff, that would be awkward.
Exactly. So there we are working on a solution that you can tweak this really to put it into positions where it really doesn't bother or it doesn't conflict with the game UI.
I like the options stuff too, because like I liked having HUDs and control and to see the status of certain things. So in VR, you don't have any of that, but hence your whole product. But I also would ask for maybe an option to just ignore phone. Like I know it's a lot for phone notifications, but I hate phone notifications. Like if I just want to throw mine in the toilet because I'll be, off in my own world and it's like buzz and it's not anybody I care about. It's like another thing like, hey, if you have this product in your cart still, are you sure you don't want to buy it? And it's like uninstalled, whatever it was.
Yes.
Amazon, don't care. Uninstalled, broke my piece. Like I have a hard enough time I'll just, even on good old Android, trying to keep those notifications off my back. So I would be the guy using Holoswitch to, see the recording status that gets said and all that stuff. But then I'd be like, shut up notifications. So I would have done it to myself. Doubly so.
I think I have to go a little bit more into detail with the notifications feature. So when we start this, of course, like filtering is the key. So on the mobile app, you can really select like which apps are allowed to send you notifications and which aren't. So
Nice.
what I do personally, because I'm in the same situation, I receive tons of mails and LinkedIn notifications and things that are just distracting. So usually I just have the phone and messages in the filtering settings, and all the rest gets blocked because this is not relevant. I also want to enjoy VR and not get disturbed by things that are not relevant to me.
Right. Yeah. The whole thing, VR does such a good job about pulling you into, the world or whatever you're visiting, shooting people, flying a plane, whatever you're doing. And if some store sends me an email and, you get a Gmail notification, I'm going to be like, uninstall Gmail. You sure? Yep. I hate you.
Of course, that's exactly what's happening. You wanna be immersed, and you have this crazy immersion with VR. So there's not only the fear of missing out things from the real world, but there's actually the intention to miss out things quite deliberately, and going into VR and to experience something else. And then of course you don't want to be disturbed by by things that just take you out of the experience, right?
Yeah, you basically don't want to break your immersion for anything less than a code red.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
So, in not unrelated, but not really in the scope of stuff we're talking about, if you guys hit it big and make billions of dollars with this app, not saying that couldn't happen, not saying it will, just no promises, but like if you could inject the same functionality of controlling, what can annoy you in VR, what can pop up and what can't, can you do that in real life? Like just screw something right into my wrist and I can just ignore real life too? Like if I answer the door.
So you want to have a filter in your wrist to ignore life. So
more real life, yeah.
not the fear of missing out, but it's more like
missing out. Purposeful missing out.
Purposeful missing out, yes.
Intentional, yeah. Like make a filter. Like maybe it needs to go to my eyeballs. Maybe I know Elon Musk is working on some brain link thing, but when somebody trustworthy actually can do that stuff, or AR. If I see random clocks out in the thing, if I don't want to know what time it is, because it causes stress for I just like blur it, like TV show blur, like censor the clocks. If it's facial recognition and I see some people I don't like, just blur their face out so I don't have to be annoyed, because then I don't have to talk to them. Kind of like a Black Mirror thing.
Yes, that's also reminds me very much of the Black Mirror episode with the blurry faces. Block forever.
Their whole body. Just don't want to. You don't exist.
At that point, it would be great if you could say, "Okay, this is Jim at work. I don't want to see Jim's face ever." You can pick like an avatar face to put over it, and then it just puts his name smallly above him. So you see a face you like, so you always react to him like you like him, but he doesn't know that you can't even see his face.
Right. Because
you could turn him into a beautiful woman. Yes.
I don't know if I want to do that.
Like, I would even go so far. This is going on the, we're getting like in Iron Man Jarvis territory, but you patch in those fake app things where people are having, Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on other people. They could just spend a day being surrounded by Arnold Schwarzenegger or anybody. Just everybody's face just gets that put on there. Maybe does his voice. And I'm just we're going way off the rails here. Like, I love the HUD feel and having custom notifications, because I don't want to lose track of stuff. But the definite like notification overload is when you guys kept saying you don't want to miss out on the phone mode notifications. I'm sitting over here like, actually getting a little anxiety of it. I'm like, oh no, that would be terrible. Not that it's, I mean, it's an awesome feature because we're so ingrained, but it's also like,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in our times where we're living, where especially through digital media, through social media, through our smartphones, there are so many things that are competing for our attention. I'm actually not sure that this problem can be solved with technology, because I think actually the technology is the problem here.
yeah.
But for me, what I'm usually doing on weekends is that I turn my phone off for 2 days. Because I just don't want to have any technologies. I'm working the whole week with this, and I mean, if you really wanna turn all the stuff off, then just take your phone away, go out, enjoy the sun, and it's so easy. There's already a very good solution called real life without all this digital stuff, and I think I cannot invent a better solution with technology.
Right. I just think you're on the right track to be able to, also censor real life. I want that too.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I totally do the same thing. I turn my phone off. If I look at my phone like twice in 3 seconds, I'm like, oh, that's weird, and then I just shut the whole phone off. But
I gotta say, you might be a genius, because you're talking about you're making a product that you have to test, right? And the only way you can test it is by playing games. Like you're talking about playing Half-Life, testing your product. Like that's freaking genius. Like, oh hey boss, like I mean I know you're the CEO, but like I have to play Half-Life for 8 hours. I'm testing this new feature. Like, oh that's too bad. Like I'm sorry you have to work, air quotes. Like
yeah, make your own crunch time. If the wife wants you to spend time with her and the kids or what have you, and you're like, it's crunch time. I got to pull a 16-hour. This Half-Life isn't going to resolve itself. With the notifications, I mean, aren't going to be tested. You'd be like, have fun cooking. Go over here and play it.
I mean, you definitely got a point there. Especially with Half-Life Alex, there needed to be a lot of intense testing, right? But the truth is that in our daily routine, there are usually users coming to us with not so popular VR titles, and I don't know if you guys do this, but if you need to test a game and that you really don't like, then it's actually work.
Yeah.
Because you're not enjoying it at all. So, so of course we are glad if we have like nice titles, nice content like Half-Life VR to Half-Life Alex to test the stuff in VR. But most of the time we are seeing like early access titles on Steam, and something doesn't work here, and then a Holocom is somewhere else, and it's usually because this content is not really, it's not a mature product yet.
Yep, right.
I for like every guest, well, not every guest, but that we have, there's normally a beta to play or something, and I'd play as many as I can, and even after like the guest has been on the podcast, I'd still try to play it and offer feedback when I can, but that is time consuming as hell.
Yeah.
So you're right. When you do get a game where like I normally can find the fun in any game, even if it's an air quotes bad game. So I don't mind, but it's definitely way more difficult to talk myself out. Like you got to go spend a half hour in this game, and it's normally not because I don't like it, but like you said, it's unfinished, and it's like, you try to spend that half hour in there and it doesn't launch, or it launches and there's no sound, or like you get somewhere and then it crashes, and it's like, I don't like this part of it.
Me neither. Yeah, from game development, I can tell you, like, if you play your own level that you designed, like for the 100th time, then it also gets boring, and this is unfortunately the reality of game development, is that you test your stuff over and over and over again, and give it to users and watch and observe them how they play it over and over and over again. That's the boring reality.
Yeah. Hey, don't get me wrong. There's many games like that I love to like play before they come out and see where it's headed and what it's doing. But like I said, if it's wasting my time, it just really is hard to put up with. But I play a lot of different games at once. Like you've heard Wookie and I talk about on the podcast, if anyone listens, Wookie likes to play one game and play that game for like a year or two. I like to play like just this morning, the hour I was awake before we came on this podcast, I played 3 different games. Like, I just like to hop in, check something out, do a little something, and go play something else. And then like on the weekends, I'll play something for a couple hours. But it is a lot to keep up with. Just being a podcast, having guests, like the amount of people like, hey, check this out, and I love it. It's awesome. But it's just like, if we do this weekly, you have a beta to play or a demo to play every week. And like I said, if there's issues, then it's really hard. And so
You make videos for some games too. So, I mean, it does take
Yeah.
a lot of time. So testing those things, I can imagine, like if I play a big game like, Skyrim, I've talked about that before, playing it 30 times, never finishing it because I'm always tinkering with stuff. I could see myself sitting with something like Holoswitch and just perfecting it. Never playing the actual game. I'm sitting there making this cool thing work how I want it to work and be like, yes. And then I take the headset off and have to go to bed to get up to go to
Yeah.
work.
So
I have fun.
I should have looked this up. I'm a bad host, but how long has Holoswitch been released as like a
As a full release, like out of early access, I think this must have been middle of January.
Okay.
So I think we started the early access 1 year ago. Yes, so we had like very, very, just like 50 people or so that were giving us feedback. But what we really believe in is that you have those iterations where you develop something, you give it out to users, you see their feedback, and we always wanted to be sure, like the things that we are doing, that they are working, that people like it like this. So we invest quite some time in testing, also ensuring the stability of the software, because there's nothing more frustrating than something crashing, not working. And a few of the challenges that we had last year, where this early access period took so long, is in the States, we have almost 50% of iPhone users.
Wow.
And iOS is Apple is much more restrictive when it comes to intercepting notifications. On Android, we can do this on a software level. On iOS, it's only possible through Bluetooth. So basically, the last year we've been inventing a Windows component that allows us to pretend that we are like a smartwatch, that we can access those notifications. And this was quite challenging, I have to say. Apple's very complicated, very restrictive.
I can't remember when you first reached out to join us on the podcast, but I'm kicking myself so hard because I remember seeing Holoswitch like a year or so ago. Kind of, you guys were talking about it, because again, when I first got into VR, like I spent like 8+ hours every day type of thing. And one of the first things, aside from like making cameras work on my system, it was always like, why do I have to like shut everything down to check the time? Because I don't know what time it is, because time literally flies when you're in VR. So I saw it like Holoswitch. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I don't, if it was like too many games coming out to play or something, I totally like spaced it. And then you reached out and you're like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, oh my God, that looks familiar. That looks awesome. But I was really glad to see like the new stuff you've added, like the recording. And one of your latest videos, you show like you can record in VR and then watch it right then and there and kind of edit it a little bit.
The editing is on our list, but not yet. But you can record videos and go then to the dashboard and watch them immediately. That's something to do.
That's awesome. My question with that, like in your video, you kind of like flick your wrist, hit record, then you flick your wrist and stop when you're done. Do you have any plans to add, like, I don't know if you play Xbox much, but one thing I've wanted in VR for a long time is the ability to do what Xbox does, where you can just say, hey, record that, or you can push a button and do it. And it records the last, like, you can choose
30 seconds,
the amount, but normally I do 15 seconds. Do you have any?
Yes, we've been talking about this. It's like a replay function, right? Where you can just say like, "Hey, what I just experienced was so awesome that I would like to share this with the world." Yes.
Yes.
that
we
because,
haven't
like,
started the development of this, but we looked into this, and this is also something that is definitely on our list, but no ETA yet for this. But we
Yeah,
have it
that
on
would be
our
a-
list. Yes.
that'd be a
I
killer
think this is an
feature.
amazing feature because the thing is, like just conceptually, of course, we have a problem in VR with our tool, because you would need to anticipate the future and say like, oh, probably something
Right,
nice is happening now. I press the record button. Let's see if something really nice is happening now. The other thing would be the reversal of this and say like, oh no, wait, something just happened now that was super cool, and I want to share this with the world. Yes.
Yeah, there's many times it usually happens when there's bugs in games too, where you're not expecting something to happen, but the physics and something,
Yeah.
freak out real bad, and it's like, oh, that was hilarious. You weren't, let me try something stupid and turn on the recorder. That's one thing, but
Yeah.
when you punch a cow and it goes 300 miles up in the air, like, what?
Yeah, glitches. Yeah, glitches you don't record intentionally.
Yeah. And like when a brand new game comes out and it's like the coolest game, like I've been waiting for this game, we'll stream it, and streaming is great, but you don't want to stream every second of every gameplay because you know why you're kind of like you're always aware you're streaming, so it kind of changes your focus a little bit. So then if you record a straight audio and you say you play a game for like 2 hours, you have a 2 hour recording, like you don't remember where the hell what happened was. You have to go searching for that moment. So it's just really, that's the best thing I've found is just the clip management. And also I always thought it'd be useful for developers you could, clip it, send it to them. Here's a bug. Here's what happened. Because even if like the game has a built-in bug reporting system, I'm sure they have a lot of sifting. Like, okay, what am I looking for? They sent this clip or whatever. So I just figured all around it was
definitely also much more helpful for developers. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even for game developers, this makes a lot of sense that people can record their glitches there and help them with this. Even for Holoswitch, we sometimes receive bug reports where we cannot see anything from the logs or from the crash logs. And when people send us a video, then because they managed to reproduce it somehow, then visually it's much more clear like what is going on, what is happening, and why things are happening. So yes, this could become a very, very good tool for game developers or for gamers to improve, for example, early access titles, to eliminate bugs there and show developers like where things are happening that are unusual, recording glitches.
Yeah, I think someone's more inclined to share a quick 15-second clip with the developer than like, okay, I'm going to type out what happened, because those get lengthy too. So
And then
I think you get a lot
trying to
more
reproduce.
feedback.
Yeah, trying to reproduce something like, okay, let me turn on the recorder, and you don't get it right. That turns, a regular user or a early access user into a tester that.
Yeah, this will be too much, definitely. Yes. This would be too much friction to record all of this. And then the thing is with glitches or exceptional things in games is like they're really exceptional. It's usually you cannot recreate them easily.
Yeah.
So those edge cases that are very, very hard to investigate, to understand why they're happening. Yes, for this would be a very good tool.
I get, as soon as we end this call, I'm installing Holoswitch because, like I said, I saw it just like, again, so many things going on. I can't believe I haven't been using this already. And I know you said it at the beginning, but so what platforms are you planning on supporting, and what platforms are we currently on with this?
Right now, we are supporting everything that works with OpenVR. So
okay,
you can say like everything that you start Steam, they usually have OpenVR integrated. This is the rendering. That is the rendering API that basically all the games use to bring things on the screen. As long as this is supported, we can display overlays. So it's mostly right now desktop VR. In the future, if OpenXR establishes itself more as a standard, and we can see this across different platforms, then we will also provide a solution for this. So you will see in the future Holoswitch also for mobile platforms. Right now, we had the discussion with Facebook. Right now, it's not the technical limitations that prevent us from this, but company policies. Let's hope that in the future the market gets more democratized and we have a lot of players in there,
Right.
and then things will get more interesting. Yes. So
As
Holoswitch, as you said, like Holoswitch is definitely still a product for the future. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years we will see a big difference. Or we'll see how the VR market develops, and then there will be a need or a bigger need for products like this.
yeah. So as a developer, talking about dealing with Facebook and Oculus, when you're trying to like say, hey, I want to get this on your platform, is there anything like what's the best route for someone listening or like me to contact them and say, I want this as a consumer, like make it happen type of thing that we can help you out with that? Is there anything we can do or?
As I mean, I've seen what your Fit did, that they complained openly on Twitter. I've seen the discussion like for overlay support in Oculus in general. The threads they are in their forums, they go back to 2015. I'm not sure. I think at my point, Oculus really is amazing in ignoring user needs. This is what I see. So because for us this would never happen. Like, this is people, they come to our Discord channel, they complain about things or they report bugs, and user feedback for us always has the highest priority. So if there are bugs, we try to fix them as fast as possible. If there are feature requests, then we order them also. We prioritize them by what our users want, not necessarily what is just on our mind. But
right.
This is company policy, so I'm not sure if Facebook is affected by anything out there. I'm so sure.
Yeah, it's problem, and it's such a shame too, because like again, we mentioned Demio is a newer game, and it doesn't seem that graphically intensive. It's just a small board game, but when we finish a playthrough and I want to check the time, I hit the the little Oculus Quest button. And the Oculus Quest, when you have newer, bigger games on the older hardware like that, it takes forever to get back in there. And a lot of times the games crash when I just do that, or something unexpected happens. If I could just pop the button or pop my wrist up and see the time, like you said, it's a simple thing, but it doesn't always work that well. That would actually be very cool for me, because then I wouldn't have to worry about the game crashing or who knows what happens.
It's the same with recording, because when I stream, even on PC, like things happen. Like there's been many times we'll play something, stream for like 3 hours, and you shut everything down and you look at your stream real quick and it's just black. It's like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like, so just you get with your guys' functionality, just checking, like you record something, you can kind of just see it right then and there and see that it works. It's pretty cool too.
Yeah, this was also one of the reasons why we invested some time in the recorder, because we used OBS before, and we had many times where we would record some in-game footage, and then something was missing. Either the screen was black or the sound was missing. So we really wanted to have this easy out of the box solution for Holoswitch, where you just install it, you record the video, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it might be not yet the best solution for streamers, because the streamers, they came back to us and said, like, hey, we want to have more options, higher frame rate, more resolution options, things like this. And since we are more focused on VR mainstream, so it's like the normal users, they just have something that works out of the box. This is highest priority for us. This is not available yet, but sooner or later we will also provide like advanced options to serve like streamers, that they can have the content and the quality that they like.
I just brought that up because there's, like Wookie said, you hit the menu button, things crash. Like even on PC VR, when you have like, I have a pretty powerful PC, but if the game isn't optimized or something is amiss, like I've like hit that menu button with everything else running, like streaming and everything else that goes with that, and the computer just restarts. It's like, oh my god.
That was worst case.
Yeah,
especially if you just want to check like what's the time. Then,
That
Not
is like
optimal.
the most aggravating thing. Like, I just ruined my night, and I just wanted to see what time it was.
Yeah. And sometimes there's such a large barrier to entry for multiplayer games. Like, over the last few years, PJ and I have just tried to try out some new games. So we're plugging in, we're playing Steam VR through the Oculus Link or something like that. And things just don't work. Audio is usually a big problem.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they need to set standards. Like you said, standards are nice and people adhere to them. So like you have one expectation and that's always met. Not like, well, if I use this, then I have to plug this over here and turn on Steam in this order. And it's like, oh Lord, like I'm just going to go play something that works or just shut it all off and stare at the wall and drool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing we're also hearing from all of our users. I mean, still the setup. And I'm not sure about the Oculus Quest. There it seems to be more easy, but for everything that we have on the PC, last time we ordered this HP Reverb, and it took us like 1 hour to set it up to get it working properly. And this is just not mainstream market compatible yet. So this stuff needs to work out of the box. If I buy a smartphone, then I also don't need to have a 2-hour setup in order to use it. And VR, in my point of view, is not there yet. And just the simple fact that after when did it start? 2015, 2014. So 7 years, we still have VR headsets, and they all have cables. I mean, this cable it's really annoying that the cable is still there. I really expected that stuff like this that makes it more consumer friendly, that this would disappear much faster. And the onboarding experience, unfortunately, for most VR hardware is still horrible. It takes a substantial amount of time to get the things going.
Yeah, it's interesting. And even early days of the Rift, because PJ and I still both have the original Rift headsets, the user friendliness comes into play because I would always have trouble. PJ seemed to have no trouble with his sensors. Mine would always give me crap. So I'd have to, adjust them. And then you have to redo the Guardian. And back in those days, when you redid the Guardian, you had to go through like the initial setup of the whole headset all over again. I'm sure you've had to deal with that a million times.
Many times, at least 3 times per week, we have something like this where we reset the Guardian.
You had to go through like the, push this button on the controller, and then you had to go through the opening videos. And it was like a 30 minute procedure, I remember. And then finally, now you can just redraw it and get back in the game. Like, oh, this is screwing up. Like, that took them long enough. And it was like, wait, why am I happy they added this? Why am I not mad that they didn't add it sooner? Because it took them a couple of years. And it was just like, we got to push these people, these Facebookers.
Yeah, it needs to become more user friendly. I think eventually, if the price point drops and those devices become more easy to use, I think that we see also we will have more users in the market. But I think these are the two biggest hurdles right now: the technical complexity and the price point is preventing VR still from reaching mass mainstream.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear you say like you view Holoswitch as like a future thing. You're just keeping it going, but the focus is on that because even whatever happens with VR and AR, and if they merge or they stay separate type of thing, like I can see this product even like in AR, obviously like hella useful with like overlays and stuff like that. So I'm just glad to hear you're planning on being around for a long time because this. Again, I haven't tried it. I'm not just talking out of my butt, but I honestly, when we hang up, I'm going to go install this and just I'll have it from now on. So
glad to hear.
I'm glad to hear you're planning on being around and continuing with the technology.
Yeah.
Now, this is I mean, it should be clear to everyone who's still entering the VR market as a company and developing products there. This is something that it will work in the long run, but you need to have patience. And in a way, I'm also glad that those booming startups, what we saw in like 2015, 2016, that this time is over now, because the things that are developed now, they are how can I say, they are more sustainable. Yes, right. Sustainable is the word.
Well, we're at our hour, is there, before we end, is there anything you'd like to share anyone listening? Sharing with anyone who's listening, like final thoughts or future plans or anything like that?
Yeah, I can. What I can share for the future is definitely we will be working very hardly on making the number one feature that our users requested possible, and which is having phone calls directly in VR. I think this is the next logical step for Holoswitch. That I mean, it makes sense to see like that you have a notification that something is coming, but you still need to put off the headset, and to be able to make a phone call directly from VR is the next logical step for Holoswitch. For all the users out there, I'm really happy for all the positive feedback we receive. And I think one of the best stories we had last year was someone he's using a glucose monitor with Bluetooth.
Oh,
And getting the notifications from this glucose monitor on his smartphone, so it triggers notifications. And he wrote us like, due to Holoswitch, he can finally enjoy VR much longer because he's always aware of his sugar levels in the blood.
That is amazing.
And this is like the use cases, the real use cases that make us happy if we solve some real problems here.
Yeah, it's when I hear something like that makes me more excited than like a new game that would like change my life. Just because I've been a gamer all my life, I know what games can do and how they can make you feel. And when you think about people that maybe can't enjoy them the same way, it's sad.
Yeah.
So when you guys figure that kind of stuff out, I just got goosebumps. So it's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah, that's nice because it opens up different possibilities. Yes.
So
fantastic.
While we're talking about feedback, and any links you send me, I'll put in the show notes and we'll share them. Is the best way to get you guys feedback through like Discord, or is there a link we can send out? Or
the best way is definitely through Discord directly. Okay. So for us, or at least in my career, this was also new to have like Discord as a main channel to interact with users. But we saw because it's in the games world, VR world, they're using Discord, and I have to say Discord worked out so well for us. People have problems, they come directly to our Discord channel, and usually we can help them very, very, very fast if they have trouble with setups, network setups, or whatever.
Awesome.
Or if they have feature suggestions. This is the most direct way to get in contact with us. Is you get also feedback from us the fastest. So it's also our preferred way now of communicating with our user base. Yes, and as I said, like thanks again for all the nice people out there who gave us this tremendous and nice feedback.
That's awesome. And real quick, since one of your closing thoughts was taking phone calls while in VR, that's impressive. Yeah. That is amazing because on my Xbox flat screen gaming, I recently just got a headset like 6 months ago that you can like get phone calls through while you're playing, and it's a life changer. Like it's so nice because especially when all games are online now, or you're playing, or you can't really pause them type of thing. And I got to take this call, and you can kind of do it while you're still going, or at least it's amazing. And to see you guys get that implemented into VR when like that's how long has flat gaming been a thing, and it's just now that's been a thing for like maybe 2 years now. So to see you guys get that quickly is amazing, and I thank you for it.
There's still some tough nuts to crack still, but sure. Eventually we'll get there. Yes.
But you're working on it, so that's the main thing. Like
yeah. And usually there's always a way to solve those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Kudos on being creative and getting around those challenges.
That's the thing that gets me going up every morning. Is like at first every challenge seems very hard, but eventually you figure out a way to crack this. And this process of inventing things to solve real problems out there is what keeps me going. It's very motivating. And then especially, of course, if the people come back and they confirm that you solved some of their problems.
Glad to hear. Quality human, Andre. You're a quality human being.
Well, thanks for your time and chatting with us and sharing your product. Again, we'll share everything we can to help promote it and get the word out there. But just on a personal level, I thank you for it. Like it, again, it's something I've wanted since I got into VR, and it's just very strange that I haven't used it yet. So I'm looking very much forward to it.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Was very nice chatting with you. And as soon as you checked it out, then come to our Discord channel, and I would love to hear your feedback.
Sure, you will get some good
Cool.
and other.
Cool, guys. Then I guess for you it's time now to start with breakfast or something like this.
Nice brunch wouldn't hurt.
For me, it's more time to start with my Saturday beer now.
Nice.
Because it's slowly getting evening now.
You got to get to work and get into some Half-Life, huh?
Yeah, actually, I'm in the office. I'm thinking about it of making some more technical testing, of course.
All right. Well, wish you luck, and if you ever want to come back, we're here. So,
Thank you, guys. Thanks. It was nice chatting with you.
yeah, have a great weekend.
You too. See you. Bye
See ya.
Bye.
Well, everyone, that was André from AAA Code, working on the app Holoswitch for VR, where you can get notifications, check the time, and soon see your entire phone screen in VR without missing anything. So, very excited for that. My main question was the record that, capture the last 15 seconds, because that's having that on a flat screen game and not having it in VR has been painful. So I am so excited they're bringing that to us. So
There's so many just, dumb moments. That's what I live for. Like,
yeah,
if you play games with me, it's, first person shooters or whatnot. I have the most fun trying to pull off that stupid, crazy, dumb move that I'll die a whole bunch. And there's going to be some, off in the background, you'll see me explode myself or something. You're going to want to record that, I'm sure.
Like you and I, we have more than filled up our online storage of Xbox video clips, and
yeah,
I'm glad to hear Microsoft's bringing a better functionality for like higher res and all that. But like
the auto delete the oldest ones or whatever was the best thing, because I'm like, I gotta go clear that crap out now. There's so many of them. Stop
a game session and we'd spend the next like hour or two like cleaning that out so we could make more. It's silly and it's a waste of time, but it's so worth it when you catch the clips you want to. So I'm glad they're cleaning that up. But to get this stuff in VR this quick is mind blowing to me. So
it's good that somebody's kind of listening to the needs of the community, because when the more quality of life stuff happens over 20 years of regular console or PC gaming, everyone sort of starts to expect that same quality when a new platform or something comes up. When the new Xbox comes out and it loses a feature from an old one, or they cut stuff, people get mad. So, and people sort of switch to VR. I'm like, oh crap, is there any way to do this or that? Or when we're recording videos for the Demio game and we just use the built-in Quest recording, it cut off at some point because it didn't like blink up and say time, like 5 minutes left. It just went, and we're like, oh hey, we missed half of it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
thanks for letting us know. You just start to expect that stuff. It's just nice to see somebody doing that. And if they can, if there are standards in the future where you have one controllable feature like that, you have full control with all the options they're talking about adding, where it's just going to work the same across all games and everything on OpenVR, that would just be nice, because you don't have to set it up once. You don't have to set up every headset. You don't have to set up every game.
Yeah, that's like with gaming in general, with all the things everyone's doing with cloud saves and crossplay, like it's been amazing. So just having the same options, like that's one thing I give kudos to Microsoft too. Like I have many Xboxes in many rooms, and with the mobile play now and everything, like it's just really nice. You can just pick the room you want to play in and pick up right where you left off from somewhere else. It's just awesome.
And then you'll get the eventual people like me that forget how awesome it became, because then I'll, go back from Xbox to PC, and we were playing No Man's Sky last night. So I went into the Xbox accessories app and tried to, do with the Elite controller, try to put on my No Man's Sky profile. And it's like, give us a second. We're syncing your profiles. And it takes like, literally a second to go to 100%. And I'm like, no, like, no, don't be an asshole. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So
coming from back in our day, like you'd have to leave the Nintendo on while you're at school to come back and pick up where you left off and hope your mom didn't shut it off.
God, yes. Or somebody trip over the power cord while you're playing fucking Phantasy Star Online on a Dreamcast, and it corrupts your fucking save for 2,000 hour character gone. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. So check out Holoswitch. Definitely. No, that's fine. If you're in VR as much as we are, or just an hour here or there, like it's got to be helpful. Just again to check the time, because time flies when you're immersed. So.
I think you just might have made up a new slogan. If you're in VR as much as we are, or you're only playing for an hour here or there. It's like a radio commercial. That was awesome. But yeah, tools are good.
Quality of life is great.
Yes. And I would say that for the alien overlords that may be listening, when you decide to murder half the planet, or when Thanos gets to snap those fingers, make sure you save the André guy. He is a quality human. Pick somebody else to blow up. Keep him alive. Finish the work.
But thanks everyone for listening and hanging out. We'll catch you next time. I am PJ.
And I've tried to be Wookiee.
And this is our VR verdict.